be with you. We missed being with you last week with the holiday, but I don't know, I enjoyed being with my family. Did you do something fun, Janet?
Yep, it was fun to be with them.
Good. So we missed you last week, but this week we are going to talk about homework battles that we might run into with our kids, especially our more strong-willed, defiant kids, um, the ones that just love to have the power. I did want to do a quick follow-up on our Facebook Live from 2 weeks ago, where we talked about getting the kids out the door to school on time. It was one of those Facebook Lives where when Janet was talking, I was taking notes for myself because my 12-year-old we've got going out the door on time on his own, but the 6-year-old was not like things weren't really great in the morning. She just wasn't really focused on the time. I was doing a lot of negging, begging, pleading. I was being in charge of trying to get her out the door on time and really frustrated. And we painted the picture of what it could be like to have our kids be thinking for themselves and getting themselves out the door on time and not have it be our responsibility or a problem for us. And I wanted that change. And so I put into action the things that we talked about, like figuring out a way to allow it to be her choice and her problem and have her have ownership of it, and then let there just be um, like a consequence for if she wasn't ready on time, and that it was a consequence that was related to the experience, and that everything else I just kind of had to let go of control of. And so I just kind of set up in my mind that that we're leaving at this certain time, and that if we leave after this time, then I just need to be paid for waiting around to take you because I've got other things I need to do. I've got this that I'm doing and exercise and other things that I'm involved in. And so it felt fair to me that I should be compensated for my time for waiting around for a kiddo who had plenty of time to get ready and didn't. And so the first day we set this up, and exactly like you said, Janet, she had no awareness of the time at all and was just frolicking around and doing all sorts of different things. And I had made breakfast and she hadn't come and eaten. And so I was nervous that she was going to go to school hungry. I was nervous that she wasn't looking at the clock. And I had to keep telling myself, I want her to develop self control, time management skills, all of these different critical life skills. I want her to develop them. I want her to develop them now. So calm yourself, Celeste, and it will be okay, Celeste. And this will be a good learning opportunity. And and I just have a little timer that goes off so that she has an audible sound that it's time to go. And then if she's not ready when that timer goes off, then that's when I get to start billing. And so on the first day, she was pretty far over time, and it was awesome because then I had her do lots of chores for me after school. So I got to sit down and read a book while she was emptying the dishwasher and wiping off the kitchen counters. Like, this is awesome. I love it when you're late for school. Can we do this every day? And she said, no, I'm going to be on time. And she's been on time every day since then, which like
Wow,
almost
that's
was
amazing.
annoying to me. Like, I want you to have to do chores for me. But she'll be in the middle of putting on her shoes and the timer will go off and she'll say, no, do I owe you chores? And if she's in the middle of putting on her shoes and getting her backpack, like that's us basically out the door. And so I haven't worried about that too much. But
Right.
anyway, so much better. So thank you.
Yeah. Just and that one time, and she's a hard kid, and it
Yeah.
only and one time, and so you guys need to listen to that. That it is super cool. And if it doesn't just happen, if it takes more times, then it's still okay. You get
Yeah.
more chores done, especially if you're looking at it like Celeste is. I love that you look at it that way, because that's when they know it's not a problem for you, that clicks all the bells and whistles in their head to say, it's not going to be a problem for mom, which means it's going to be a problem for me. And that's what they're trying to avoid, is that problem for them. So I love it. And yeah, good job.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I love that you taught me how to take all the control out of it. I wasn't trying to force her to come and eat. If she wanted to waste her time blowing bubbles instead of brushing her hair, then
Mhm.
then whatever. And so it took all the fight out, which
Mhm.
helped us keep in a really warm place in our relationship where I'm able to stay more loving and positive. I'm not feeling agitated or aggravated and that. So it's all super awesome. Now, another issue that parents really run into when it comes to school, I feel like it's the bookend, you know. We've got the first part where we're trying to get them out the door without it being a huge hassle for us. And then they come home and they have homework. And that can become another huge issue for us, another place where we take a lot of ownership, a place where there's a lot of conflict
Mhm.
and a lot of fighting, a lot of begging, nagging, pleading, reminding, rescuing,
All of the above.
all all of the things, which when I hear all of those words, that triggers in my mind, the parent is taking ownership of it and it's not sitting on the child's shoulders and it needs to shift onto the child's shoulders, which is hard for parents because we may see our kids fail. Anyway,
Yeah.
so is it pretty common for you to see parents with kiddos that are creating fights around homework or parents who are taking on a lot of the responsibility of the homework?
Yeah. Yep. There's both of them. And, when they come to me with the problem, they're usually in high school, you
Mm,
know, and the kids are trying to not, um, they want to be their own person. But the thing that's interesting when I'm working with a teenage kid and I teach their mom how to do this, the teenage kid doesn't like it because they don't like having the problem of it and having to even remember it. You know,
mm,
they want their parent to do it. They've got used to it being their parent's problem. And so they haven't even, worried about it. And so, and then it is more difficult for us to do too, because the kids are used to us reminding them. And then when we don't, they kind of get angry with us and then they want to
yeah.
blame us for their poor grades, you know?
And that hurts our parent hearts, or it can be
Yeah.
really irritating for us.
Yep. Either or. It would hurt your heart and it would make me angry.
Yep, yep. Sounds about right.
And so, and we feel guilty when our kids are saying, well, if you just would have reminded me, because we said, yeah, all I would do is had to say something, but then we're making it our problem. And so I can tell you it's a little story about homework. Just a quick story. This was somebody that was related to me. And, she was always doing the homework. And I was trying to encourage her not to do his homework, to let him fail. But she just was so worried, because she said, he has problems in school. He has learning disabilities. And I go, well, then he needs to be put into the class. If he fails all the time, then, maybe he has to take it over again, but it needs to be his natural consequences. But she just, her mom heart wouldn't allow it. And so here it is. It's the night of graduation. I mean, the last day of school before he graduates. So he's a senior and he says, I'm going to bed. And his mom said, you have to finish this report or you're not going to graduate. And he goes, I'm too tired. And so he went to bed. So mom had a choice. Do I type the paper for him or do I let him fail?
Mm,
And guess what she did?
type the paper.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after all that time of pushing him, you know, she typed up the paper. He graduated. And guess where he lived?
In her house.
Yep. In her basement. Guess how many kids he has from how many different girls. I mean, yeah, it just adds and adds and adds up. Okay. And so, we need to be really careful about taking ownership of our kids' stuff, because if they don't remember it, you know, then they're not going to remember it, and his jobs are low paying jobs, because he doesn't have motivation.
Yeah.
It's not because he's dumb and by any means, but we just have lack of motivation when we aren't taught. So
Mm.
that's what I want for your kids, is for them to be able to make it through. And guess what? When we let them fail in homework, that's okay. That doesn't make them fail in life. What does is, if we don't give them chores to do around the house, that is more important. If a kid does chores around the house, that is more important for their future. At least that's what the studies show,
Mhm.
than homework is.
So
Homework.
developing the work ethic, the
Uh-huh.
ability to do something difficult, to have the grit, to take responsibility for something.
Yep.
We're
And the
talking,
relationship.
and the relation. Oh, because the relationship is my mom needs me to do something, and so I contribute to the
Right.
home because I'm somebody here, and
Uh-huh.
so taking ownership for my part of the world that
Right.
I live in.
Well, I meant doing the work um
Mm,
and them um taking on, I mean, and having it good between you. When you're
have
always
a
having to
good
push your
relationship.
kids to do their homework, you do not have a good relationship. I
Mm,
can guarantee it, you know, because it is a battle between the
yeah.
two of you. And so we want to get all those battles out. And it's not, um, some people would accuse me of not helping the teachers out. And I am helping the teachers out, because they're not going to have as much problem with my child if I teach him how to be responsible. And so it really does end up helping the teachers, you know? And so I'm always really trying to get parents to um, not rescue their kids with homework. The thing that we have to remember is, when our kids come home from school with homework that's too hard for them, there's two things that it could be. One, they don't know the material because maybe they didn't listen to the teacher.
Mm, mhm. That was
Or,
me.
or number two is they just aren't capable of it because they haven't developed their brain to that point yet. Okay. Well, we want to take care of either of those, right? We don't
Yeah.
want our kid to keep going faster than he can really go. I mean, he's the one that needs to learn. The goal isn't to get him to graduate from high school. The goal is to help teach him what he needs so that when he goes out in the real world, he can handle whatever comes his way.
Mm,
And I think that parents see the goal, him graduating, and we need to change that goal in our brain to say, I want him to be responsible. I want him to learn. And we cannot make our kids learn, but we can help them learn by letting the problems be theirs.
mm,
You know, even if, let's say, I've had clients that kids had a mental disability, I mean,
like ADHD or a learning disability
yeah,
or
learning disability. That's what I
Mhm.
was trying to think of. And he had a learning disability, and it was like, well, if he has a learning disability, we want him to be able to function where he can. And if it takes him a few extra years to graduate, at least he's graduating. You're not pushing him through so he doesn't have the knowledge.
Mm,
And so as a parent, we really need to say, where is my kid? And let him grow and develop how he needs to grow and develop. It's not our agenda. the goal isn't to get him graduated. The goal is for him to be able to learn what he needs to learn to grad I mean to be successful, not to graduate, but to be successful.
Mm.
There's tons of people out in the world that didn't really graduate from high school that are very successful, you
Yeah.
know. And so it's not that they graduate, but they have to think on their own. And this
Yeah.
is what the best gift we can give to our kids. And so if kids don't want to do their homework, the first thing we want to do is, make them, right?
Right.
Force. And does force ever work? Does it even work for us when we force ourselves to do something? We don't do well, do we? And we
No,
don't keep it up and we hate it. And
it's not
so,
internally motivated
right,
and it's not internal change. It's I'm like crossing this off the list so that you can get off my back. But it's not,
right,
do I want to learn? Do I want to grow? Is my mind developing? Are my skills developing?
right. And so, it doesn't do any good. And if they get an F, people, if we are really on our kids all the time and they come home with an F, it's like, ha, 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 ha.
You
You
can't
know,
control me.
right, exactly. Because they don't want to be controlled. And it's not that they're mean, it's they hate to be controlled. And we all hate to be controlled. And so I
Mhm.
can understand it. I've done stuff like that myself, you know, with bosses even, that are
Yeah.
trying to control me. It's just
Yeah.
like, you can't control me and watch this. and
Oh,
so
man.
and so we can, so we need to let them take their own reins and do what they want to do. Let them get an F. And once they realize we're not going to jump in, guess what? They don't really want an F,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying to be mean about it. You're being really sweet through this whole thing. If you're saying, look, you got an F, da da da
You're
da,
such a
well,
loser. You're
yeah,
so dumb. You're not going anywhere until
yep,
you have all A's.
yeah, or just anything like that. But if you say, oh, wow, you got an F, what do you think about that? And then they go, I like it. And you go, oh, okay. Then you'll probably get more. You know how to do it now, and you just don't act concerned about it. Then they start to go, oh, she doesn't really care that I get an F. So do I really want this F? Then they start putting the dots together, but they
And
won't put
thinking
it
for themselves.
together. Yep. If we are trying to take the control, because they're trying to get away. Remember the steering wheel. The minute we grab that, they're going to try to get away from us. And that's one way with schoolwork. That's the one thing the kids have control over is getting F's.
And so you've seen with kids that feel overly controlled in their lives that they will get Fs to show that they won't be controlled.
Yep. I see it over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yes.
And yep.
Which
And
is
so,
frustrating as a parent. But what what I want to emphasize, like just a couple of things that I feel like are worth really driving the message home for people is that we aren't talking necessarily about homework or graduation. We're talking about life skills and our kids choosing for themselves what kind of life they want. And that when they feel like we are trying to choose for them, it shuts off their thinking brain and they
mhm,
just go into, let me show you what kind
mhm,
of brain. And if we can release the control, release our desired outcome, and say, this is truly up to you. Look into your future and what do you want it to hold? If you want a low paying job and that is your greatest desire, okay. If you want something different, if there's certain things that you're passionate about, maybe it's worth exploring what it takes to get there. And okay, that's up to you. And that once they feel that release,
Mhm.
then it takes their mind from fighting against us. And they're like, wait, there's nothing to fight against.
Right.
Oh, it really is up to me. What do I really want? No one's telling me what I really want. And I love that you're saying, like, if they come home with poor grades, then like the only thing I need to say is, oh, so this is what you want, and that's up to you. And I love you and have a great day.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's really hard for parents.
Yes, because one thing that you said um was like the kids can pick up, oh, my mom doesn't really care about what grades I get. And some parents could hear that and interpret it like my parents don't really love me and
Mhm.
my parents don't really want me to succeed.
Uh-huh.
And that when you say like the child seeing my parents don't really care, it's not like my parents don't care about me and my future. It's that they are not going to control me, and that how wonderful am I that I am in their eyes doesn't have anything to do with these letters on the page. That my worth in their eyes is separate than my performance at school. My performance at school, my academic performance is about me and about my own choice. My worth and my value to them is separate from that.
Yep. But you brought up the thing, about my parents don't care. And this is something that when our kids want us to take over, they
Mm,
will use that. And so parents, you need to be aware that when your kids say to you, um, well, you don't even care about me. You don't care if my homework's done, you know, and you need to not take over. Then you just say, oh yeah, I love you, but you're the one that gets to decide your grades. And you do that very calmly, kindly. Um, yeah, but if you cared, you would, because they want you to take ownership again. So
yeah.
you have to be realistic. In a love and logic term, they would just say, nice try, you
You're
know.
trying to bait me into taking ownership of your stuff, because we described it last week as ownership of our stuff is like carrying a backpack. Like there's a load
Right.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
Taking ownership of life has some weightiness,
Yep.
which is good. That makes us stronger and more capable. It's not a negative thing. But when kids are starting to feel the weight of ownership and that backpack of ownership, it's like, this is kind of heavy. Mom, Dad, will you please carry this again?
Uh-huh.
Because it's way more fun for me just to think about what video game I want to play or what friends I want to hang out with than what do I really want for my
Muscles.
future.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So that they don't build the muscle so they can't carry the weight. And like we said last time or the time before, we want the hard now and it easy for them to be later, than have it
Yeah.
easy for them now and hard later, because that's just not how we want it. We want them to develop their muscles now. So then it's easy to get up, do their chores, go to work, do whatever they need to do. Um, that's what we really want in our kids
Because they've developed all the muscle to be able to carry that around and the grit that it takes to be
to
able
do
to
it.
do it because they've done it.
Yeah. So let's just talk a minute about things that they can do. Let's say that, do you have an incident that we can talk about?
Um, well, I definitely can see two different, I do have an incident in my mind.
Okay.
And I also want to talk about age groups because I have a 6-year-old
Uh-huh.
and a 12-year-old. And I can imagine that my level of involvement may be different
Right.
with the ages, like with the first grader coming home and the teacher says you need to read for 20 minutes every day, that I can just come in and say like it's time to do our reading and we read books together. Whereas my 12-year-old, my hands are going to be more off the wheel because of his age.
Mhm.
But the incident that I'm thinking of is junior high school age, and it's kiddos who have ADHD, and so they struggle focusing, they struggle at school,
Uh-huh.
The mom has a super compassionate heart because she has ADHD as well. And she barely graduated because of the struggles, and the story that she had for herself and the narrative that she carried was that she was stupid. And so she wants to protect her kids from from feeling stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But every day homework is a fight, and her kids are apathetic towards getting their homework done. They don't want to do it. They don't want to have to try to focus. They don't want to have to deal with the struggles that get in their way. And so the concern that she has is high. The level of involvement that she has is high. The concern that her kids has is low, and the level of involvement that they have is low. And we can totally be understanding about her thought process and
Oh,
where
yeah.
she's coming from, like loads of compassion for
For
her
sure.
story. But her kids aren't, like, as I look at it, I think um even with your asking all the time, there's no internal motivation from the kids to learn to work with their mental wiring, to
Uh-huh.
learn to work past it. They aren't coming to you saying, hey, I am really struggling with ADHD. What are some tools? How can we figure this out? Mom's saying you're struggling and you need tools and you got to figure it out. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
What would you have to say?
Yeah. And that is a good one. And I've had clients that is, something that happens all the time. And so I'll tell you an example of one. The mom, she had ADHD when she was a kid. Same thing. She felt like she was stupid, and so she didn't like it. And she wanted to make sure her daughter was successful. And so what she would do is, you know, be on her with her homework. She happened to be separated, well, divorced from the child's dad. So she would go to homework. And then it was a battle between the parents, even because when she would go to her dad's, she wouldn't do anything. She'd just play. And dad didn't make her do her homework. And then she'd come home, and then mom would have to sit up with her getting her homework done. So she would get it, so she could go to school the next day. And so we talked about that. And one thing that she did say is, her parents hadn't been there for her. And so she had to learn it on her own. And I said, so how do you do now with it? And she said, well, it was hard, but yeah, I got through it. And so that's what I tried to teach her. Yeah, it'll be hard for your daughter right now, but she'll learn how to do it on her own, because what this mom was doing was coming up with all these things for her to do, and she wouldn't do it. You know, she would make lists for her in the front of the book, and then she would say, when you get to class, hand it into your teacher. She said she can't even remember to hand it in, you know. And so I said, well, it needs to be a problem for her. And so what we talked about was, she was going to tell the daughter, hey, you're the one that has the ADHD. I took care of mine, how it worked for me. Doesn't sound like what I'm doing works for you. So you can figure out any way to do it. And she was in fifth or sixth grade, is what she was. And she said, you can figure it out any way you want to. If you want ideas, you can ask me,
Hmm.
you know? And then
Yeah.
she didn't, she stepped back,
Okay.
and then she failed, you know, but then she didn't like it, and mom didn't step in. And I have had mom step in, because they can't handle the low grade. And then they just go on with what they have been doing, and their kid doesn't learn.
Yeah.
But with her, she stuck to it, and her daughter started doing it. When she went to her dad's, you know, she said, you know, your homework just needs to be done before you go to bed at night, which for me, if you're really brave, you don't even say that. They
Yeah.
come home, they say it's not done. You go, what are you going to do? you put it back on them and they can either stay up late doing it or get up early. But that made her really, she needed a boundary
Mhm.
at that time. So that's where she started. So
Yeah.
she rescued her a little bit, but sometimes we just have to because of our personalities, and you kind of have to wean yourself
Yes.
from it, and that's okay. But if you
Yeah.
are really brave, it is better just to say, hey, I'm turning your homework over to you, and let me know if I can help. But if they're coming to you all the time to do the work, then you say, you know, I don't think that you're getting it, at school. So maybe you need to go talk to your teacher or something like that. But you don't, I mean, you just give them ideas on what they can do. You don't do their homework for them. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah.
You know, like you can give them, well, maybe if you read the paragraph over again, you'd find the answer.
Mhm.
And if you have such a soft heart that you thought, I just can't do that, then what I suggest to parents is to read the paragraph and do it so slow that you waste their time. And then you go, well, I don't know. Oh, maybe it could be this, or maybe it could be that. And what I find is the kids just grab the book away, decide they're going to do it themselves, and that you're stupid. And it works, you know? My kids,
Yeah.
when I went back to college, they said, I didn't know that you were smart. you
Because
know,
I was fooling you all these years.
no, I really didn't know how to do their math, and I couldn't remember,
Oh,
and I would have had to read it and stuff, to really
yeah.
figure it out. But they just thought it was because I was dumb. But it was just like, I, you know, they change the math all the time. You don't
Yes.
know how their teachers are doing it. And really, when we make it their problem, they'll listen to the teacher, they'll make sure they get it, they'll go ask them questions. And then I have the parents that say, yeah, but my daughter or son's too shy. They won't go talk to their bishop. I mean, to their bishop. Why did that come up? To their teacher. And they need to learn how to do that at a young age, so they're not afraid of their teachers. That's the
Yeah.
best thing for kids.
Yes.
And
And
so,
what's cool now is that they can email their teachers.
there you
My
go.
son was too nervous to go talk to his, so he emailed her and that worked too.
Yeah, there you go. But we
Yeah.
want them to be able to talk to anybody and not
Mhm.
feel intimidated by teachers.
Yeah. Once again, a life skill
Mhm.
versus like focusing on the life skill versus focusing on getting the assignment done, getting the letter, getting the diploma.
Yep.
That they're kind of two different categories completely. And that school can be an opportunity to learn all these life skills, or it can be an opportunity to rob our kids of all of the life skills
Yep. And
and
have us.
see how to give those to them.
I know kids that still call their moms and tell them in college,
Oh,
what they're doing a report on, and their mom's helping them get it done.
mhm.
And
And let's play that out just a little bit further. They graduate from college, and now are they really employable? Are they really going to be fantastic at work? Are
nope,
they going to succeed in life? And
no,
they're really not.
right.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so letting them have ownership of their scholastic journey, whatever it may be,
Uh-huh.
even if it involves learning disabilities, like having to take ownership of that, or personality characteristics like being shy and not assertive,
Mhm.
that these are all opportunities to let our kids have ownership of the reality of their circumstances and learn that they are capable to be able to handle those circumstances and learn what it takes for them to be able to handle those circumstances while they're in the safety of your home. This
Yep.
is really, it can be uncomfortable, but you're saving them from so much future discomfort.
Yep. And
Something that you've also,
I was
go
just going
ahead.
to say, because we get uncomfortable, And we
Yeah.
have to get used to the uncomfortable feeling. Like if somebody asks our kids a question and they're shy, what do we usually do?
Answer for them.
Yeah, we answer for them instead of just sitting there really uncomfortable. They don't answer, make the kid really uncomfortable, you know, and let's say they never answer them, you know, and you can just say, oh, doesn't look like she wants to answer, he wants to answer. And then the kid's like, aren't you going to save me, mom? You know,
Yeah.
but then when they know you're not going to save them, then they're going to go, okay, I probably need to speak up and take some courage. And then it gets easier and
Mm,
easier for them. But, you know, sometimes it makes us really uncomfortable to do those hard things. And sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable, because if we're the one taking over their uncomfortable feelings, they're not going to take
mm,
care of themselves. So anyway,
It's one of those realities of life that's hard to accept. The difficult is really where we grow.
yeah.
That in discomfort, I think about my husband just came home from the gym, and they have this trainer that's been helping them. And he said, you've been way too easy on yourselves and you've got to try it this way. And it's really pushing him, and he's very uncomfortable. Today, he couldn't raise his arms up above here. Like washing your hair is going to be a joy, but it actually helps him get more gain, which is what he wants. And so it's that same thing in life, that this
Yep.
being out of their comfort zone in all of these ways is really, it's muscle developing, like character muscle developing, um ability to handle difficulty muscle developing.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that we're developing ourselves too, to allow people to be to be uncomfortable. When we allow them to do it, we're
Mm,
really growing too, and we're allowing them to be who they are and not
yeah.
take over it for them, you know. So
Yes.
so it's cool in all areas.
Yeah, and along those lines, I have found that when I am taking less ownership of my kids' stuff, it has given me space to actually look at my own stuff. What are my own struggles that I need tools for? It's almost like I was trying to be so busy and wrapped up in their life that I didn't have time to slow down and be honest about my own
Yeah.
and take ownership of my own stuff. But
Yeah.
with that space, I've been able to learn new skills for myself
Mm-hmm.
that I will hopefully now be modeling for my kids and handing down to them.
Yes.
So in all areas of this cycle or system that we're in, it's really beneficial.
Yep.
So in conclusion, we talk a lot.
Oh,
This
we
is
do.
this is such a good one though. Um, one of the things that you've mentioned to me several times is that school is not a one size fits all. It's not even close. That
Right.
education is so much of square pegs being shoved into round holes. And that if you have a child who is struggling in the regular school system, maybe it's worth exploring an online option or a vocational training at a trade school. Or what is it that they're really passionate about? If they're not passionate about school the way that it is, what are they passionate about and that could light them up to want to learn?
Yeah.
And looking for those other options as well, where we live in a time where there's so many choices and our kids are really diverse, and we can start to find things that might fit with them a little bit better. Like I
Yep.
could see at some point that if my son were completely disinterested in school, but he loves engineering and welding, that would be a great time to go to a trade school and learn welding. Um, or another example is like my older brother was not interested in participating in school. It was all about control, and you teachers can't tell me what to do, and the system can't tell me to do, and all of those different things, and my parents can't tell me what to do. So I'll get F's to show you all what's up. And totally did that. And then I think he was 24 or 25 when he said, you know what? This really isn't what I want for myself. I've been working at Starbucks all this time. My wife and I want to adopt a kid. It costs $1 million. So I got to get a higher paying job. He went back to college. He got 4.0s. He was like valedictorian. People were wanting to hire him out of school. People wanted him to come and teach because it was his choice and it was his life. And he was doing it for himself and what he wanted. And he found a field. It was called argumentative communications. I mean, really, what's better for our strong-willed kids? And now he kicks butt in his job and
Yep.
is fantastic. But it was when it was internally motivated rather than forced upon or somebody rescuing him from his
Yeah.
choices.
We've got to realize that our kids, you know, they come with their own greatness, and we shouldn't try to control it, you know, not try to get them to be what we think they should be, but what we try to do is help them to be who they really are, you
Mm,
know, and help them to see who they really are. And so that's what we want to do. We want to be there and support them and help them really uncover who they really are, not try to get them to be what we've decided. We do not mold our kids, you know,
mm,
and I think that's what we've been trying to do, is to mold our
yeah.
kids into what we think, you know, they should be, what society says they should be. And
Yeah.
it's not helpful or useful to our kids. We want to help them uncover who they really are.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. But it's on the list of things that you've taught me that's just really cool. That my stepping back and letting that unfold, they'll actually become something even cooler than what I could have tried to force.
right.
And there are so many kids that their grades determine their value in their mind or how smart they are in their mind. And that this is a great opportunity to really untangle our value and a paper and and help our kids see that there's so much more to them than what those
Yeah.
letters say.
Because we usually get our values from our parents' values, or what our parents didn't value. Like my dad, one of his values were go to college, you know, because he was in a job like everybody else. And because he didn't have his degree, he got paid a lot less. And so
Mm,
for us, he wanted us all to go to college. Of course, he wasn't a forcer, but he just made that statement, you know.
yeah,
And I think most of us did graduate. I think there was only one that didn't graduate, and he did a trade.
yeah,
But you know, my parents didn't shame him or anything. But anyway, I just think that a lot of times, like I know one gal, she wanted to be a hairstylist. She
yeah.
loved it and she wanted to be one. And her dad said, nope, you're not going to become a beautician because they don't make money, da 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 da. And I can remember talking to the dad saying, hey, I've got a master's, and my daughter didn't even finish college. Because she loved doing hair.
Hmm.
She makes a lot more money than me.
Yeah,
You know, and if your daughter loves that, she should be able to do what she wants to do, you know.
yeah,
But no, he didn't, and he forced it. She had a lot of anxiety, and you know, and wasn't able to be herself.
yeah,
And you know, so it's sad, but I'm sure when she graduates from college, you know, um, or maybe she laughed. I don't know what even happened to her, but it just isn't helpful or useful to our kids. You know, why not embrace what they want to do, you
yeah.
know, and
What
let
if
them
you
have
think
fun.
that they're not doing homework just because they're being lazy teenagers?
Then let them suffer the consequences. You know, I mean, then they get all F's, and then they're like, this isn't, you know, I know I can do better than this. And, you know, so they'll do it. You know, the reason why kids are lazy is because they don't have a problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's tough about this is that the ownership of the problem might not come for years. It may be a really delayed response because in my mind, I could say, well, I'll make it a problem by saying you're not allowed to drive the car or go out with friends or use screens unless your homework is done.
And parents can do that, you know, and that's a thing that some parents just can't do. They can't just sit there and let their kids do that, but they're taking ownership of it, and so their kid doesn't take ownership of it. But that isn't as much ownership, you know. If that's what you have to do, you know, then do it and then try to back away. But you know, kids just feel like you're trying to control them, and you
Yeah.
really are. You're trying to do that so that they will do their homework, right?
Yeah. And it's all well motivated. Like I want them to
Right.
succeed at school. And so I'll make it so that the homework has to be turned in. But who then is to say if they do a good job on their homework or if they're learning while they're doing their homework? Whereas if it's like the ball is really in their court, I could see that my child would be more likely to say, well, this is really for me. And so I've got to decide if I'm going to learn or if I'm not. And
Yeah.
that he would catch on a lot sooner to being internally motivated to do it
Mhm.
rather than externally motivated.
But if you are going to do that, you know what you just said, make it a natural consequence. For instance, to say, you know, um, I realize you still want to have fun like a teenager and you're not taking school seriously. And so I can't let you drive my car until, you you show that you're an adult, because I don't want a kid behind the wheel, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
so if you are going to do that, that's the best way. But kids really go, yep, they're just trying to control me, you know. That's what it'll turn to. So we just try to stay away from battles like that
Yeah.
if we can, because
Yep.
it just works a lot faster.
Yes. Dang it. It's like the most uncomfortable, but what I'm hearing you say is just rip that band-aid if we can. And it may take some hair with it. Rip it anyway.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it- gradually doing it the other way will work too, but just keep in mind what your goal is and what you really want them to learn.
Mhm.
My oldest son, because I couldn't always be there, he did some really, you know, um, not very smart things. And, you know, and he was just on his own. I can remember being called in and the school was saying, you know, you need to, um, he needs to be here at school. And I go, well, he's right there. So you probably need to tell him, I
Yeah.
appreciate you wanting me to know what's going on, but he's the only one that can get himself to school. You know,
Yeah.
I can't make
You,
him go to
you were
school.
a single mom working and going to school.
Right. And anyway, they just said, you know, okay, you need to come to school. Da, 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 da. But he was a charming boy, and and he would go to the counselor and say, well, I just da 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 da. She let him graduate without, you know, they didn't keep
Doing
the
anything.
boundaries there. Right.
Yeah.
And he knew it. He knew what he could do and what he didn't have to do. And he graduated, but it was because of them rescuing him.
Hmm.
And but once he turned 18, it was like, oh, okay, I've gotta take care of it. And he became a business owner and, really took care of his life and did a great job with what he
Yeah.
had to do. But, you know, um, we just, and it's like your brother. I mean, they're the ones that decide when they want to be responsible and not be responsible. And we just help them get there faster when we allow it earlier on in their life. I
Yeah.
really think that that's, when they feel like we're trying to control them, they fight. And I think I was kind of
Yeah.
more controlling before I was divorced, and so that probably got him in that
Mm.
mode,
Hmm.
too. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, we just want them to, we want to be there for them when they fail. And, you know, put our arms around them because they lost the job, but we don't want to buy into, why they lost the job. Wasn't
Yes.
their fault at all.
Yes. Yes. And I love that you said we're not just disappearing and saying good luck on your life. We could say, if you ever need any ideas, I'm here for you. If you need support or comfort, I'm here for you.
Mhm.
You get to decide when you want that.
Right. And then they know, hey, my parents know that I have great stuff in me. Why don't I see it?
Mhm.
Then they will start to see it. And when they start to see it is when they'll start to change.
Yeah, that's cool.
So just see the greatness in them, even though they fail.
Yeah. Yes. Well, this has
Okay.
been fantastic. And let us know, everyone, if you have any questions, and we'll check out the comments and we can follow up. I'm sure that as you listen, well, at least this happens every time we work with parents. But in my situation, fill in the blank. So give us that in my situation and the film and fill in the blank for us so that we can walk through that with you.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. We'll talk to you all
Okay.
next week.
Okay. Bye, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
Okay. It wants me to stop it up here.